It is the first measurable snow of 2025, and I couldn't be more unmotivated to detail a car at this point. My customer didn't want to reschedule. They dropped their vehicle off before the snow started to fall, so we were actually smart enough to ask them to bring it pre-washed and pull it into the garage before the snow started to fall. My kids have a flex day for school, and so that means I have to be a little flexible with my schedule. But for those of you that want to know how do I detail from home even on a snowy day, we're going to take a closer look into what that process looks like. First, we start with vehicle roulette. I have my Subaru Outback on a trickle charger because the constant stopping and starting of my vehicle to move it out for customers' vehicles has been very abusive on the battery. So we have found a trickle charger will help. I'm going to go out and help my husband shovel the driveway, and then we can pull my vehicle out to position this vehicle a little bit more comfortably to work in the heated garage. So we played our vehicle roulette. We've got the truck pulled in at an angle so that way I can comfortably get around the front and back of it. Sometimes when I have it straight on, it's a little tight. So this just allows me to very comfortably work around the truck. Now, you might be thinking, this vehicle looks pretty clean. What all am I going to actually be doing to it? Well, one of the things that I have found in the wintertime, and for those of you that have a home-based detailing business, and maybe you're like me, I can't wash vehicles indoors. I don't have a drain. I don't have access to free-flowing water in here. Typically, I am just kind of resigned to doing a rinseless wash when conditions are like this. And I can do a rinseless wash on a dirty vehicle, but it will take a little bit more time for me to chase all the salt, road film, etc. And one thing that I have found is if I request to my customers, can you bring it pre-washed? Just take it through a touchless wash. I don't care if it's the $8 or $9 one. It doesn't need to have wax or anything fancy on it. Just blast the heavy dirt off prior to bringing it. I'll offer them a $10 to $15 discount just to reimburse them for doing that. That allows me to focus on the details and get started on the job faster. So for those of you that maybe you're detailing from home and dealing with a similar situation, ask. Ask your customers. The worst that they can say is no. But honestly, I've never had a customer say no. They typically will do that because sometimes they might actually make $3 or $4 off of it just for taking 10 minutes to run it through a touchless car wash. So now we can go ahead and get started on our rinseless wash, decontamination, and then polish and ceramic coat it. We do have some issues going on with this vehicle, and they're kind of unique. I've never really seen this on a vehicle. So let me just do a quick walk around, share with you guys what's going on, and then how we plan to address that for the customer. One of the biggest issues for the customer is that when they touch the vehicle, it is leaving behind forensic evidence. They can actually see their fingerprints stained on the paint. I have never seen this to this degree. We also have some pretty serious swirls and scratches on the paint. It looks to me like they're typically using an automatic car wash with brushes to maintain their vehicle to have this level of fine swirls on the paint. But the biggest issue for the customer that we really need to take seriously is trying to remove all of the fingerprint stains at really every touch point on the vehicle when they're closing any of their storage compartments, tailgates, door handles, etc. My best guess is that this paint is just so dry and they might have something on their hands when they're closing it that it is just soaking it up like a dry sponge. So more than anything, we need to put oil back into this paint to try to prevent that staining on the paint from their hands. I think we should be able to easily correct it though, and I think it's gonna turn out fantastic for the customer. But good Lord, if you ever needed to commit a crime, that's the car to pull the prints from. So it's obvious we have some pretty severe issues going on with this paint. Beyond just kind of the fingerprints and sticky appearance that we have going on, severe swirls and scratches, we also have some oxidation setting in on the roof and hood. We have some chemical staining that occurs, as well as some mineral deposits that look like they've etched into the paint. I should be able to fix a majority of that with a heavy polish, but this right here, we're not going to be able to fix. This is actually clear coat failure. At this point, I've told the customer the only solution for this is a respray, unfortunately, and they can be quite costly. The customer is going to save for one in the future. At this point, they just want me to try to improve the look of it, protect the rest of the vehicle from looking like this. But for those of you that might be wondering, like, what causes this and can it be avoided? I oftentimes kind of equate it to skin with my customers, and they seem to connect with it a little bit better. If I have a really strong soap or a detergent on my skin, what's going to happen? Well, most of them have kind of a degreasing quality to them. And those degreasers are going to pull the oil out of my skin, leaving it kind of faded, dry, and cracked. And if I were going to go out into the sun without any sort of sunscreen protection on, what would happen? Well, more than likely, I would get a sunburn on my skin. If you get a severe enough of a sunburn, what happens? Well, your skin gets really dry. It almost flakes off and peels off of your body. Now, we can regrow skin. We can't regrow paint. And so that's why it's important to try to protect your paint as much as possible. Because if we go through an automatic car wash or we use the wrong soaps or detergents to maintain our vehicle with, those soaps actually have a degreasing quality to them. And so they can actually pull the oil out of your paint like they can out of your skin. And not only are they going to pull the oil out of your paint, but they can actually strip off or weaken the protection that's on your vehicle. If you're going through the automatic car wash, most are going to have a pH of, let's say, 13 or 14. Most waxes and sealants and ceramic coatings, while ceramic coatings are more chemically resistant, some are pH resistant of 12 to 14, most waxes and sealants don't offer as much chemical resistance. And so those really strong soaps more than likely are going to remove the protection, if not greatly weaken the protection that's on your vehicle. If you have no protection on your paint, not only is that going to give it more of a faded appearance because you don't have UV protection within it to prevent sunburn damage, which is basically what this oxidation is, but it's also going to dry your paint out and give it kind of a faded, dull appearance. So your protection, not only does it leave it glossy and shiny, not only does it give you hydrophobics, which will help keep your vehicle cleaner longer and make it easier to maintain, but it also is giving you that UV protection to prevent sunburn damage, aka oxidation. Oxidation, if it stays on your paint for too long, will turn to clear coat failure. So how do we fix this? Well, basically, we abrade off some of your clear coat that has that sunburn damage on it. Similar to like if I have damage on my skin, I would use an exfoliant to kind of remove the dead skin on my hand. And then I would polish the vehicle that has oils that's going to basically enrich and restore the appearance of your paint. Similar to how I would put lotion on my skin to kind of moisturize it. And then we have protection that we would apply that would give us the UV resistance that we're looking for to prevent sunburn damage on your paint, aka oxidation, which eventually leads to clear coat failure. Similar to how we would apply sunscreen to our skin to prevent that sunburn damage from happening at all. So hopefully that puts it in terms that a lot of you can maybe understand why it's important, avoiding those high pH soaps, making sure that you are keeping up with maintenance. If you have issues like this, it's time to do a paint enhancement. You don't necessarily have to chase every single swirl and scratch. More than anything, you want to put the oils back into the paint. You want to kind of remove the dead skin or the oxidation that is on the paint, and then you want to make sure you're regularly applying protection. Now for today, the plan of attack is we're going to do our rinseless wash, we're going to do our chemical decon, clay towel treatment, get everything cleaned. Then we're going to figure out what pad and polish we need to get the paint cleaned up as much as possible, do panel prep wipe, and then apply our ceramic coating. It may not necessarily fix this issue long term. It will definitely make it look a lot better for the customer. But for those of you that maybe your paint is starting to look a little faded, a little sad, this is where I would probably recommend, if you cannot do it yourself, find a professional detailer that you can have them to polish your paint to prevent your paint looking like this, because like I said, there is no fix for this other than a very expensive respray. So you might be thinking it's expensive to polish a vehicle. It's a lot cheaper to polish it than it is to have the vehicle resprayed. So we're going to be using the rinseless wash from Clean today. It does a really nice job giving you lubrication to be able to do a clay towel treatment simultaneously. And we're just doing this 256:1 dilution ratio. You'll notice that it actually looks like a milky product. And what I actually like about that is it helps you see where you've missed, because you'll actually kind of see a little bit of a milky residue on the panel if you missed a spot. So I don't know if that's by design, and I actually like that because it helps me be more thorough with my rinseless wash. So we have about 2.5-3 gallons in our detailing keg, about 2 gallons in our bucket. and we're gonna get started. We're gonna do our tires and wheels last, so that way whatever rinseless wash we have left from our paint, even if it's got a little bit of dirt in it, it's okay, but that way I don't have to have like 5 buckets. So we're gonna do our wash, we're gonna do our chemical decon clay towel treatment, a second just quick wash just to remove that residue, and then at the very end we'll do our tires, wheels, and wheel wells. We're gonna fill up our detailing keg to about 60 psi, and then we're gonna start at the top, pre-treat everything with our rinseless wash, and work our way down. I find that inside I can do an entire side of a vehicle with my rinseless wash very quickly. We're going to spray each panel down with the Detail Coat iron remover, one of my favorite smelling iron removers. And I thought we were going to be able to just do a quick clay towel treatment, but after we got into the decontamination step, I found that we were pulling up a ton of tar. I started off with just kind of a mild grade clay bar and found that I was pulling up more and more tar as we went, and so I kind of stopped, pulled out a tar remover to try to soften and loosen the tar so that way I could pull it up a little bit more easily with my clay bar. I know I'm doing a good bit of damage probably on the paint with this decontamination step, but I'm not going to worry about it. We'll be able to correct all of that very easily when we do our paint correction. But you can hear just how gritty the paint was. I first used the clay towel just to try to pull up some of the heavy stuff, and then dialed everything in with our medium grade clay bar. The only problem with working with clay bars is that if you drop them, like I almost did here, you've got to throw them away. So sometimes that's why I prefer to work with a clay towel, because it's more forgiving. Fortunately, we caught it on the bumper and we were able to get this paint silky smooth, but that was a ton of tar and rail dust that we picked up. Tires and wheels are done. We did our door jambs, did a quick vacuum on the interior. Several hours later, we are now ready to do our paint correction. Before we did that, we did a paint thickness gauge reading with my next PTG. I highly recommend, if you are a detailer and you do not have a paint thickness gauge, pick up something like this. This is digital. This will give you a quick report that you can show customers. You can even screen record it. But going around this entire vehicle, surprisingly enough, we have very thick paint. The lowest reading on this was on one of our side panels, was like 5.6 mils of paint, and that's actually very thick. The thickest that we had was kind of this roof area. It told me that this is a second layer of paint. So we had 2 layers on the sides as well, so I'm gonna assume that this was maybe an accident, that they had to respray these 3 panels, maybe even the door panels. But the thing that was the most surprising is that this said 11 milliliters of paint, and it actually said on the screen a fine layer of putty. So my best guess is that there maybe was some rust or body work that they did, maybe DIYers, put a thin layer of putty to kind of fix some rust or defect that was on the paint. And it's quite possible that what I'm seeing here is kind of rattle can spray paint trying to touch up or cover up some body shop work that was done. So it could quite possibly be that all of this is actually just because they didn't spray clear coat over top of it, or maybe it was kind of a 2-in-1 rattle can type thing. But I thought that was very interesting. I can actually see some sand marks under here, so it's all kind of making sense why we have a lot of texture, a lot of sanding marks in certain areas. This was a respray and maybe not that good of a respray, but interesting that you can just see beneath the surface with something like this to kind of get a little bit of a history. You have to play detective sometimes, but to get a little bit of a history of the vehicle when sometimes you have no idea really what's going on, especially this customer. Maybe they didn't know because they bought this used, that maybe this wasn't an accident and that we had some body shop work done. So helps me know how much paint I have. We can do a little bit more of an aggressive approach to try to correct some of these issues. So we're gonna do our test spot, see what works, and then we know how to proceed. Since I'm really looking for a lot of oil to be put back into this paint, I want something that's going to correct as well as finish down. We're gonna start off with 3D1. This is heavier on the oil side, can be, a little annoying sometimes with wiping it off because you battle a lot of those oils. But we're gonna try the Eurofiber 50/50 pad. That's gonna hopefully cut through some of the defects and finish down decently. We'll see how well we finish down on this paint. It tends to be medium, but being that it's a respray, you never really know what you're getting into because you don't really know if they use the same kind of factory paint. So let's go ahead and do our test spot. Now with this package, I am not looking to do a paint enhancement. I typically do that for newer vehicles or vehicles where maybe the paint is getting pretty thin and I can't be aggressive with removing defects on the paint. What I'm actually doing here is what I would equate as a one-step paint correction. I'm taking a little bit of a longer time trying to correct the defects on the paint, but making sure that I finish down properly with one step. If I didn't finish down enough, I would have to go either another half step or a full step. So that's where we get into kind of a 1.5 step or a 2-step paint correction. I know sometimes customers can confuse these terms. They might even call this waxing or buffing the paint. Those are completely different surfaces. But what we're doing today is actually a 1-step paint correction. So like I suspected, this area right here, we have clear coat failure going on. We're not going to be able to necessarily correct that. You can see even some sand marks underneath of the surface where they did the Bondo work, maybe didn't finish down properly enough. Wow, some pretty deep sand marks, in fact. But you can see the areas where we had our oxidation have now been removed through the paint correction process. We've kind of shaved off that flat dead paint and been able to reveal just beautiful metallic gray paint underneath. Up here you can see where we still have some oxidation, chemical staining, some water spots. The Eurofiber 50/50 did a great job at cutting through all of that dead paint very quickly and just left behind a really nice finish. And I'm really happy to see our Eurofiber 50/50 finish down really well on this paint. That's why I would probably say it is more on the medium side. We have some kind of cloudiness here from the sanding marks, but the rest of the paint here, when you look at the reflection of the light, we just have a really nice crisp clarity. So we don't have any micro marring or haze, even from the fibers from the Eurofiber pad. So this should be a really good one step that we'll be able to do. Hot dog. That is a relief. Rarely am I this lucky that the first product that I test is the one that is going to work. So we are going to do a larger section now that we know what is going to work for us. We're going to kiss out all of our product, spread it evenly at around a speed 3 with my 21mm polisher. And then we're going to do about 3 to 4 passes. Our first pass, we're going to go at a slower clip to allow all of those abrasives to do their job. This is a diminishing abrasive, so the longer you work it, the more it will kind of break down those abrasives and then finish down properly. That's why this is kind of a hybrid compound and polish in one. But after wiping off all of our residue, I'm just really happy with what I'm seeing with this paint. Now to prep for ceramic coating, you don't need paint perfection. You just need clean, decontaminated paint. And my goal isn't to go for paint perfection with this package. I would have to charge the customer more for that, and we're trying to stay on budget. But with just a one step, we are getting at least 75% correction, which is fantastic. Can you tell where we stopped? Boom. This I want to see gone. So in between every section, we're using our pad washer to make sure that we are working clean and keeping our pad cool. We're gonna put a little bit more on our pad because we're gonna do a little bit of a larger section here. Now this truck has a lot of curves and bends to its panels, and so my primary focus is to try to keep my pad as flat as possible. This isn't a very conforming pad, it's a little stiff. So you just want to make sure that you're paying special attention to your pad so that way you don't come in too tight on some of those curved angles and potentially burn the paint with your backing plate or the pad. But we're going to overlap all of our passes by 50%, and for each panel we're going to do about 3 to 4 passes. Any longer and you're going to start to kind of break down the polish too much, but this is one of those polishes that's really forgiving. It has a really nice long work time. The biggest annoyance sometimes is the wipe off process. So I find using a rinseless wash to remove this polish after working it down is going to be just a little bit more friendly for me, for my back. So we're going to repeat this on every panel. On larger door panels, we'll divide them in half, so that way I'm not working the products too long. Sometimes you can add more product, but that doesn't necessarily give you more correction. Sometimes putting too much polish on the pad diminishes the pad's ability to correct because it kind of clogs it. So it's just finding that balance between the amount of product, how many passes you want to work that product down is going to give you the best results. On some of the tighter sections of our panels, I was struggling with making good contact with my 5-inch backing plate. So we broke out our Griot's Garage 3-inch polisher, a microfiber pad, and Obert cut to be able to correct some of the heavier defects at the top of the panels and remove some of the staining. And then to remove marring from our microfiber pad, we followed that up with the Eurofiber 5050 and 3D1. That just goes to show you that a microfiber and a Eurofiber 5050 pad are built completely different. Microfiber pads actually have longer fibers. They're meant to do heavier correction, whereas the Eurofiber 5050 is a blend of two different types of microfibers. We have a long nap and a short nap to be able to correct but finish down a little bit better. So for those of you that maybe you have medium paints that you want to do heavier correction, highly recommend checking out this pad. It is one of my go-tos for medium paints and heavier correction. After polishing this panel, I noticed that my decals had a good bit of staining and some rail dust. So we actually took Koshemi, their reactive rust remover, and a soft detailing brush and just agitated some of that in those tighter spaces. And I was able to clean up some of the dull appearance in those emblems really nicely. Now, because I had a brush on polished paint, we had a little bit of marring, so we just repolished those sections real quick. Next time I do the other side, I'll know to do this first before polishing. That's just going to be a little bit more efficient. But for those of you that are struggling with getting your emblems clean, try some reactive rust remover and a detailing brush to see if you can remove that staining and then dial it in with a plush microfiber. Sometimes you can put a little bit of polish on your microfiber and do a hand polish if the lettering allows for the space. But I find just kind of putting my pad over it, whatever polish is left behind, I was able to polish the chrome lettering and make it look fantastic. Being that this truck is stored outside and over 10 years old, we had quite a bit of staining and mineral deposits on the glass. So we're going to polish our glass with Clarity Cream from P&S. This was actually my first time working with this product. We paired it with an orange foam pad from Lake Country and did about 3 passes up and down side to side. Basically just worked this product until the point where it was transparent. Very easy to remove, and it did a fantastic job on cleaning up all of our glass for the customer. So I was really impressed and looking forward to working with this more. One thing that never gets old when I'm doing a paint correction is just the radical transformation that can occur with even just one step of correction. You don't have to chase every single defect on the panel to make an improvement for the customer. If I were to go after paint perfection, more than likely I would be removing quite a bit of paint. And even though we had it to do it, doesn't mean I need to remove the paint. But you can see 3 passes from left to right, what a huge difference we've made in improving the gloss and shine and reflection on this paint. It's not paint perfection, but it is a huge improvement. We've done a lot of work in the last 2 days, and I'm stinking tired, I'm not gonna lie. I'm 40 years old, sometimes I feel like I'm getting too old for this, and we are so close to the finish line. At this point, we just kind of gotta keep pushing. And when it comes to figuring out what product I wanted to work with, I wanted something that was going to be friendly to work with, because obviously at this point, the last thing I want to do is fight a ceramic coating We've done a panel prep wipe, and the coating that we're actually going to be applying is this one right here. I'm actually really looking forward to working with this coating because it is so user-friendly. I have 34 ceramic coatings on my Subaru Outback, and this is actually one of them. And out of all of the coatings on my vehicle, this was actually my favorite to work with because of how user-friendly it was, as well as the fact that it is more of a sweating ceramic coating. What does that mean? Well, when ceramic coatings flash off or when they've kind of bonded with the paint, they will kind of show you a sign that they have started to set up and it's ready for you to level. We call that kind of the flash time. Some will haze, some will rainbow, not so clearly as others, but some will sweat. I actually prefer sweating coatings because they're very clear to show you, hey, we've started to bond with the paint, now it's time to go ahead and level. It just kind of takes the guesswork out of it, and typically they're going to be more user-friendly to remove because of the polysiloxanes and ceramics within it. So I'm going to demonstrate for you guys, for those of you that maybe you're like me, maybe you're a little bit older, or maybe you're working on a bigger vehicle and you're butt tired and you just want to kind of get the job done. You want something that's going to perform but be user friendly for you. I think you guys are going to really be impressed with this coating if you haven't tried it already. This is definitely one of the more popular coatings on the market for enthusiasts to professional detailers alike. So I know I've not done a dedicated video review on it for you guys, so I wanted to show you guys just how easily we could get around such a large vehicle with a product like this. The customer is really giving me free reign on what ceramic coating to apply. They just said they're looking for anywhere from 2+ years of protection. This is actually a 3-year ceramic coating, has anywhere from like a 12 to 24 hour cure time, which is perfect because they're going to plan on picking this up tomorrow. So we're going to get this applied, let it sit overnight. They can come pick it up tomorrow. In fact, before they pick it up, we're going to top it with their cure. This is just going to kind of give us a little bit of a sacrificial layer on top of the ceramic coating, considering we have some salt and snow still on the roads. That will just kind of help protect the ceramic coating as it is curing over the next several days. And then we have 14 days till it is fully cured, so you just don't want to wash it in that 2-week span. But for those of you that are wanting a industry favorite, something that is very user-friendly, something that is going to perform anywhere from 2 to 3 years for you guys, let's go ahead and demonstrate for you guys Geon Mose, or is it Show? I don't know. It's Mose. I always feel like, for years, I honestly thought it was Geon Show. I don't know why. But we're going to go ahead and demonstrate for you guys how to apply Geon Mose. That was not as cool as I thought it was going to be. So within the packaging for our Geon Mose, we have our ceramic coating bottle. This is a 30 milliliter size bottle. I actually had a previous bottle that we used for my vehicle that we're going to finish up. This is actually a 50 milliliter size bottle. I do recommend just going with a bigger bottle if you have a truck, more than enough to be able to do one vehicle. But they actually have some of the coolest packaging with any of their ceramic coatings, but they apply a suede applicator. I love these suede applicators. They just make it very smooth to apply the ceramic coating. We've got some stickers that you can put on your glass. We also have some stickers for the customers to be able to know what ceramic coatings they have applied. A maintenance guide for you to know what all you need to maintain your ceramic coating with. Absolutely love that. Not every manufacturer provides that. Some people, they'll say, oh, go online, and they're just too lazy to actually look. Another thing that I really like about Geon, and you may not know, they actually provide instructions for every single one of their ceramic coatings. When I first opened this, I was like, holy crap, this is a lot of steps, but you just have to find the ceramic coating that you're going to be working with, and they have very easy visual aids for you to see how to prep the vehicle, how to apply the ceramic coating. So Geon, you've done an exceptional job at doing exactly what you need to do to educate not only your customers, but the people installing the ceramic coatings to get the most out of your coating. So absolutely love that. For those of you that maybe you're new to this whole game and you're like, how do I do this? Geon, they're definitely leading the way with professional packaging and quality materials. So this bottle has already been opened. We used this about 6 months ago or so. Normally, that's kind of right at that point where ceramic coating, if it's been opened, is when you're going to want to use it. So that's why we're kind of using this one before opening up the other bottle. But we're going to come in here We gave it a good shake. I don't know why. I like the smell of ceramic coatings that have polysiloxanes within them. Maybe I'm weird like that. But we're gonna go pretty heavy for our first application. And we're just gonna try to figure out where's the middle of this truck. We're gonna divide this hood kind of in half. You can instantly see it's starting to sweat on the outer bands. You definitely want a thicker application with this that will just make the leveling process a little bit easier, but you don't have to put it on so thick that it's soupy, but you don't want it to be so thin that you're not going to really see that sweating. But let me bring you in a little closer. But this is what we mean when we say sweating. This basically says to me that the ceramic coating is ready to level. 10 to 30 seconds is all you really need. You don't want to let this evaporate, so we're going to go ahead and grab our towels and level. So we're just going to go over everything real quick in straight lines. And then our second towel, we're just going to come in with some smaller circular motions. Make sure you pay attention to your corners and your edges, because that's where your high spots are going to be prone to setting up. And just like that, we've leveled the ceramic coating. Like I said, you can't get easier than this coating to apply. We're going to go thick again with our ceramic coating. I need orangutan arms for this truck. What is nice is that it's very easy to see with this coating where you have and haven't applied it. There are some that it is straight up guesswork. I haven't adjusted my lighting whatsoever in the garage. And sometimes when working on this colored vehicle or gray vehicle, they can be pretty difficult to see the ceramic coating, but there's no denying where that ceramic coating is at. Just gonna get our second towel. And what's great is, you know, most ceramic coatings, I use a 3-towel method just to ensure no high spots. I don't even know if I'm gonna need that with this. It is just so easy and smooth to work with. Honestly, it just takes the stress right out of it. But just like that, we're done. We're gonna just let that set up and then work our way around the rest of the vehicle. In my opinion, this ceramic coating is even easier to apply than most waxes or sealants. While most ceramic coatings are becoming more user-friendly, out of all of the ceramic coatings that I have tested in the last 5+ years, this is probably the easiest one to work with. On larger panels, you don't want to work too far of a section, so I'll divide them in half, and on that first half, kind of put a steady stream right down that middle of the work area, and then do our crosshatch pattern. You can let that half set up and then do our second stream right down the middle of the second half, divide that in your crosshatch pattern, and then go back and level. You can work basically section by section this way and get around the vehicle very quickly. I was able to ceramic coat this entire large truck in under an hour. I did use my softbox light to examine for high spots, but I really didn't need it because this ceramic coating turned out flawless. Here's the finished look after applying the ceramic coating. It didn't necessarily fix the imperfections on the hood, but the gloss that it is giving off the rest of this vehicle is breathtaking. This does not look like a 10-year-old vehicle that had forensic evidence all over it just a few days ago. So thanks to some hard work and our Geon Mose Evo, this truck is now going to be protected and easier to maintain for the customer moving forward. We let the coating sit overnight in the garage, and before the customer comes pick it up, we're going to top it with Geon Cure. They recommend that you apply this, especially if you're releasing the vehicle in kind of some nasty elements, and we do have snow and salt on the roads currently, so this is just going to give the coating the best chance possible of curing properly and having no issues for the customer. And last but not least, I like to leave recommendations for maintenance for the customer as well as a business card, and we are done. And just as we started with vehicle roulette, we're going to end with vehicle roulette, pull our vehicles out of the way so I can get the customer's truck out and ready for them to pick up, and then pull my vehicles back into the garage so they can warm up. Thank God for a warm garage to work out of, because y'all, it's cold out. The things I do for you people. I'm out here in the dang cold, freezing my butt off. Even if I didn't have a YouTube channel, I'd still be out there enjoying how this truck looks like in the reflection of the snow, because honestly, there's nothing quite like a clean car up against a snowy backdrop. And I was equally as happy to see that all of the defects on the hood were very nicely blended, so that way they don't stand out quite like they did before. But this was a difficult project, definitely took quite a bit of effort and elbow grease, but we were able to transform this 10-year-old truck for a customer, and I think they're going to be really happy with the end results when they pick it up later on. I swear the UPS people must think I'm crazy being out here videotaping a truck, but we're all done. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this deeper look at what it takes to transform these vehicles, sometimes even the freezing cold winter, but I think it turned out fantastic. The customer, I think, is going to be really, really happy with the end result, and hopefully we've been able to eliminate any sticky fingerprints moving forward and just give them easier maintenance. Hopefully they will fall in love with their truck all over again. But if you guys have any questions about the process, about any of the products that we used, let me know your questions in the comments section down below. By all means, feel free to give us a thumbs up for freezing our butts off in the wintertime for you guys. But hopefully you guys have enjoyed this closer look and that you will stay tuned for our next detail coming up shortly. It might be a warmer detail. I think I need a summertime detail just to remind me how much I absolutely love this. So make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss out on any of those videos. But thank you guys for watching, and we will see you in the very next detail. Oh my God, it's so cold out.